I'm glad that you've decided to join me for Old Testament Introduction online this summer. This is my second time teaching an online course. I just finished the very first Humanities Religion online course back during the spring semester. It was Old Testament, just like you're going to be taking. I've learned some things through that experience that I hope will make this a better experience for you. I've tried to organize the class very simply, so that basically there are those three components that you'll move through in 15 chapters, which are arranged around your textbook here, and around the books of the Old Testament. And in moving through those, you'll complete the class. As a matter of fact, in the syllabus, it lays out a plan for you that will take you through and get you finished on time by August 6th. And I hope that you'll try your best to keep on task and keep moving through. As a matter of fact, the course is going to be a whole lot more fun if you and I interact at the same time about the material of the various chapters, particularly on our discussion board. It'll be a lot of fun, and we'll probably stretch one another sometimes with questions. There may be some things that we'll have to dig for, and maybe some things that we'll just have to agree to disagree on. But that's part of the learning process. One of the things that I did learn from my first time through Old Testament online is that there was kind of that missing component of getting to know professors and students. We knew each other through some phone calls and through some emails and the discussion board, but they said, gosh, we really wish we could hear you talk a little bit about the Old Testament, and that's why I'm going to be filming a brief lecture for each chapter. This one's just a very brief kind of introductory lecture on the first chapter, the book, and those who study it. And guess what? That's talking about you and me, because, hey, we're here to study the Old Testament together. So, greetings, Old Testament scholars, and welcome to an incredible journey through an incredible book, a book of antiquity that, by the way, did you know that Gutenberg invented the printing press specifically so that the Bible might be duplicated in more abundant supplies, because previous to that, they had been all handwritten copies. So the Bible itself spurred the modern industry of book printing, and, well, now e-books and e-readers too. So we're going to have a great time studying. One of the things that you'll encounter in this first chapter is kind of two polar opposite ideas of biblical scholarship. And most biblical scholars fit in one of these two groups, or at least in some subset of them. At the one end is something called plenary verbal inspiration. Plenary verbal inspiration. Plenary means all or the entirety. Verbal, that's about the words. And inspiration is actually from the Greek language that means God breathed. Theos pneumos, God breathed or inspired. God inspired. So plenary verbal inspiration is the idea that the Old Testament, that God spoke and gave all the words of the Old Testament to those human authors who then wrote them down. That not that it was necessarily like dictation, but that he placed that in their heart and mind as they wrote. And so they wrote the very word of God. Now, at the other end is an idea that kind of coalesced around two German gentlemen in the 19th century. One of those guys is Julius Wellhausen. The other guy is Hermann Gunkel. And both of these German scholars began to question, one of the things that they questioned was Mosaic authorship of the Pentateuch. If you don't understand what that means, well, you will by the time you finish reading this first chapter in your textbook. But what it does is theirs was an attempt to that said, well, maybe the Bible was not exactly written by the named authors. Maybe it came about in a little bit different way. And Julius Wellhausen championed a very strong and dominant theory of biblical scholarship called the documentary hypothesis, the JEDP theory, the Yahwist, Elohimist, the Deuteronomists, and the priestly redactors, so he thought, were the ones who had input into bringing the Bible together in the form that you and I now have it. And so these two polar opposite spheres of biblical scholarship, one says, yes, Moses wrote the 5 books of the Pentateuch. That's the first 5 books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, right, and Leviticus, and Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And Wellhausen would say, maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but probably not, and probably it was written by a number of people over different years, and you can trace these different streams that are going through it. And so that is the predominant view of the scholars who wrote your textbook. Now, that doesn't make them bad and evil people. That just means that they have a different approach to biblical scholarship than perhaps most folks who sit in the pews of a church every week. So you and I will come to understand a little bit more about their perspective. Perhaps it will, in some ways, challenge your assumptions about Scripture to this point. But I think we're going to have a great time together, and I'm excited about you being here. Just so you'll know, my name is Jim Kelley, and I am in my 5th year here at Coastal Carolina teaching religion courses in the Humanities Department. I'm also a pastor of a local church. Been the pastor of Eden Chapel Baptist Church for 25 years. I've been teaching, studying and teaching the Old Testament for better than 35 years. And it has been a joy to me, and I'm always discovering something new. And every year, with each new class, you guys come up with ideas that make me say, well, let's look at that. And I love that. I appreciate that about you. I look forward to those kind of moments this year. And I just want to say that approach this class with a mind ready to discover, a mind that is ready to embrace an ancient text and the people who wrote it, and understand it from their cultural perspective, not try to squeeze it into the mold of our 21st century, but rather to learn about the ancient Hebrews, to learn about their cultural and their historical context, to learn a bit about their particular religious views, and then see how the Old Testament interplays and interacts with all that. I look forward to talking with you on the discussion board. Have a great week studying chapter 1. God bless. you.